here I am. I'm in my PowerPoint file. So the idea behind this presentation that I have in front of me is that I'm wanting to do a presentation for potential students and maybe potential parents of students. So we do this together in both the PowerPoint sessions. So this is kind of a shell of a presentation. I've got a slide where I'm going to talk about the schedule of courses. I'm going to explain nouns and verbs. School of Dinosaurs, this is a new school we're getting at WSU. I'm making this up. Culture, colleges, just some different things you might be presenting to a group of potential students to get them to have an interest in WSU. So where I'm actually going to start in here, this is something some of you guys might know. I know we're all on different levels with different comfort levels with PowerPoint, but this is something I see a lot of people making a mistake with, so I want to be sure to point it out. I'm on the schedule of courses slide, and I've got a picture in here. I'm going to click right on top of this picture, and there's a contextual tab that will appear for you when you click on elements in really any Microsoft program. So in this case, I'm clicking on the picture. I have a contextual tab that appears all the way on the right. In my case, it's called Picture Format. If you're on an earlier version, it might be called Picture Tools. Now, this Picture Format / Picture Tools contextual tab is the same in all of your Microsoft programs, pretty much. So if you learned it in one, you've learned it in all of them. The reason I want to show this to you is I've had several faculty contact me and say, hey, can you teach me Photoshop? And I'll say, why do you want to learn Photoshop? Well, I need to be able to crop some of my pictures in my PowerPoints. And I don't think they realize you can actually do this on your picture formatting tab. It's one of these features. So here's the key though, is people insert a picture and they click off of it. And then they don't ever see that tab. So click back onto it. It's right over here in the size group of your Picture Tools tab. Here's my crop button. Some little frames are going to appear kind of around it. So let's say I want to zoom in on the students. I don't want all this extra stuff. I can kind of replace that frame. And the nice thing about Microsoft's crop tool is that you can really play around with it until you get it how you like it. Some programs, when you let go of your mouse, you're committed. And I like that that's not the case in this program. So I'll kind of get it how I like to do it. I got it here zoomed in on my students, and I'm going to click the crop button one more time. So no need to learn Photoshop. That is killing a fly with an elephant gun in this scenario. You've got it taken care of here. Now, I'm not going to cover everything in the Picture Tools tab. I don't mean to keep plugging myself, but come to Essentials. We'll talk about all that stuff. The one other thing I really wanted to show you that helps out a lot of people is the ability in your Picture Tools tab to compress pictures. So a lot of times PowerPoints are very image heavy. So you end up with an enormous file very quickly. Compress your pictures. This can make a huge difference. So I've got this enormous picture here. I'm just going to show you kind of how this works. Picture Tools tab, adjust group, compress pictures. By the way, if your screen is smaller, you might not see the words compressed pictures. You might just see a little icon there. So don't let that throw you for a loop. So when I select this, let's see if I can zoom in. My zoom has been a little moody lately. When I select this, this is a really huge picture I've inserted. So I have every possible option here. But if I know my end goal is, I know this is going to go on an HD display, or maybe I know I'm going to print, who knows. I'm going to select that HD display option here, and this is going to shrink down the size of this image so it's not quite so huge. And you're going to be surprised. It doesn't look like I did anything visually. You're not seeing a difference, but that's because we didn't need this to be so high quality that we could blow it up and put it on a billboard. We just need it to be an image in our PowerPoint. You're going to be shocked if you go through your PowerPoints and do this to 3 or 4 images, how fast you're going to shrink that size down to a much more manageable size. So that's kind of the basics of picture formatting, the 2 things I really wanted to show you. I don't hit the whole tab today, and I hope I see you in a full session to show you some more tricks in there. I know it's not a new feature, but it's just something I felt was really important to mention. Next couple things I want to show you are some really exciting new things coming with 365. So nouns and verbs, what is this all about? Well, when I first did this, when I first showed this feature to everybody, it was in a live session and I kind of had people shout out some nouns and verbs. So I'm gonna try to mimic that a little differently today. What I want to show you first is design ideas in PowerPoint. Some of you who have 365 already know about design ideas because you were probably in the middle of creating a PowerPoint and something pops up and says, hey, I've got some design ideas for you. And you're like, where did this come from? But thank you, right? They're really helpful. So basically, as you're in a slide, this is, and we'll see if it pops out for me, as you start to type some content in there, and sometimes it takes a hot minute, this little helper is going to pop out here called design ideas. And this is only with 365. If it doesn't, like mine isn't right now, you can actually force the issue and say, all right, I need to see some ideas. I'm running out of ideas. So this stuff is going to live on your design tab of your ribbon, all the way on the right side. Well, now it's popping out, of course. I didn't even click on that, but that's where you can kind of pop it out. I find these hugely helpful. If you're not a very artistic person, like I'm not, it's not my skill set. I made entire presentations just kind of, oh great, that's a great design idea. I'm gonna grab that one. So if it doesn't pop out for you, design tab. So here's what I wanted to show you. There's a really cool thing that happens with design ideas. So in the in-person session, I said, hey, shout out some nouns and some verbs. I wasn't sure how easy that would be to do in this type of session. So I found online there exists a random noun generator and a random verb generator. So I've never done this before in a session, but we'll see. Oh, that's kind of depressing. I want some other random nouns. There we go. Sympathy, weakness, and chest are going to be my nouns. Grab those. These are kind of odd nouns. People must be putting some interesting things in there. All right, there's some nouns. I'm going to grab some random verbs, maybe a couple. Believe and bang. It's going to be interesting to see what this does here. So here's what I want to show you. I'm actually really curious to see what happens with these particular, when I do this in person, it's like cat and dog and run and jump. All right, so I'm popped out my design ideas, and in real life, you're probably not just typing nouns and verbs, you have a whole sentence, but my point is that PowerPoint's gonna pull out nouns and verbs, and in your design ideas, there's certain designs where it's actually going to pull in an icon. These were really interesting ones. I wasn't sure what it was gonna do for like chest. It looks like it's gonna be a lung in this case. Sometimes you're not crazy about the ones they pick. There's one I do in the full session where it's the Wichita Facts one, and it says average age 35, and it gives us this old man icon, which I'm not happy about. But anyway, kind of cool. This is throwing in a smart art design. So going back to contextual tabs. So I mentioned that there's one for pictures. If you're looking at something and you're like, this was cool, but what is this? I don't even know what I did here. If you click on something, this is sometimes a great way to do some investigation. Click on this, what contextual tabs appear? Smart art. Okay, so this design idea is incorporating smart art, which we learn about in the full session. Sorry, I keep plugging myself, I have to stop. This wasn't just smart art, however, these are also icons. And these icons are part of 365. And I think you're gonna find a lot of uses for these. When I first saw these announced, I thought, well, what's the big deal? I don't really understand, they're little icons, but now I've found so many uses, not just here in smart art. We use them in the macro session, applying a macro to them, just to punctuate your PowerPoint with just a little something. So this is kind of an introduction via design ideas. Let me show you how you can actually get to those icons. So I'm gonna go down to my School of Dinosaurs slide. So maybe I'm not messing with design ideas today and I just wanna find my icons. All of these new elements, this one and the next one I'm going to show you, live on your Insert tab. So it's gonna be a new group. If you don't have 365, you probably aren't gonna have all of these yet. But the new ones are icons and 3D models. So icons you saw a second ago, but let's see how I would insert one proactively. I'm going to click on icons. Now for this one, and the next thing I'm going to show you, you do have to have a Wi-Fi connection. You're pulling these from Microsoft's servers. So I'm going to do my dinosaur, my School of Dinosaurs slide. Just searched for dinosaur and icons, which I don't know what these, there's different things in here every time I come in here. So I don't know what the cavemen are all about. Let's say I like this kind of T-Rex guy here. By the way, you could browse around through those. There's always more. They're always developing with more of these icons in here. So I don't know, I think this is why I wasn't super excited about it at first. I inserted one of these and thought, I don't really understand how I would use these, but the smart art was very inspirational. Take a look at what some of our design ideas are doing over here. It's just a fun way to kind of punctuate a presentation with your icons there. So check out icons, or you'll be introduced to them via design ideas. Other thing I wanted to show you on the insert tab, and this might be moody for us today because we're using a lot of bandwidth with all of us here in this session, so I have a backup plan if this is going to be moody. I want to show you 3D models. The reason I say it's going to be possibly moody is we're also going online to access these, but it's a much larger thing I'm downloading than just the icon. 3D models are also something that you could browse around for. It's also something that you can search for items in. You're going to see this developing every time I come in here. There's something new in here. They're constantly developing this. So let me do that same thing. I'm going to search for dinosaur. And I just did this yesterday and I feel like there's new ones in here already. So here are a lot of 3D models. These are all going to be 3D when you insert them, and I'm going to show you how that kind of works. But I want to point out one thing as you're kind of looking around at these. In the lower left of some of these is a little running person. If you see that, it is an action. There's an animation applied to the 3D model, which is really cool, and that's what I want to show you. Any of them could be stagnant and still, but not any of them can have action. So I want to show you one of those. I'm going to click on this guy here and hit insert. This might take a hot minute. I will tell you, you really only need this internet connection for when you're downloading these initially. Once they're in your presentation, they're in it. You've downloaded it. So I know that question has come up before in other sessions. They'll say, oh, I've got to connect to the internet when I'm presenting about the School of Dinosaurs. You kind of don't, just when you're downloading the 3D model. And because I thought this might take a while, I actually have, oh, it seems to be coming along. There we go. There's our guy. So a couple things about this guy, and I actually discovered this weird glitch yesterday. I'm actually going to close my PowerPoint and reopen it. You won't have to do this in real life. I'm having a weird computer issue lately. Why do I say real life? We're in real life right now. All right, there he is. So I've inserted this 3D model of this really cool guy. And this is one where I really have to fight my instinct to click off of him because I want this little circle to go away in the center. The purpose of this circle is you can click and drag it and kind of rearrange your guy, however you want to do it. It's 3D, so it's kind of cool. But if I click off of him, I'm going to miss out on this contextual tab for 3D models. So check this out. I have a contextual tab. So I have some different views in here, and some are better than others. There's some kind of odd ones. I mean, the idea is, it's the undercarriage view there. The idea is that it may not always be a dinosaur. Maybe it's a cupcake and you're moving it around. Whenever there's action like this, there's going to be different scene options in this contextual tab. So different depends on what you've downloaded. So scene 2, a little more aggressive here. I see a question about accessibility. Here's an interesting thing. When you download a 3D model or an icon from any of these servers from Microsoft, they come with alt text. You don't even have to set it. Comes with, I mean, you could check it if you wanted to. They have a little alt text button. One thing I will tell you, compatibility-wise, if you're sending this to someone with an old version of PowerPoint, may not work for them. It may just be a stagnant picture. But the idea typically with PowerPoint is you're presenting. Let me show you something about what this looks like when you are presenting, speaking of this. And this is kind of why I like the 3D models, particularly in PowerPoint. You're actually going to see these in Word and Excel, you name it. But as far as action goes, typically in Word, you could put an action item in Word, I guess, but I just feel like you're going to use these a lot more in PowerPoint. But prove me wrong, use them in Excel. I think that would be cool too. Could really get someone's attention with a T-Rex. So 3D models, exciting stuff. I'm actually going to pause him. Pause him in motion. So don't forget, you can browse through for all sorts of 3D models in there. Kind of cool. Let me show you a couple of animation tips. This is something I shortened, actually. My thing is that I put too much stuff in. I think I always have more time than I have. But come to the Essentials session. I talk a lot about some animation tips. I'm going to give you a couple for today. One is that when you're working with animations, I'm popping up to the Animations tab, your life will be so much easier if you pop out your animation pane. So if I'm like, there's some animations in this slide, what's going on? In your advanced animation group of your Animations tab is an animation pane. I believe for Mac users, you get this automatically. I think it just pops out for you. I think this is a much easier way to take stock of what's going on and to play around with your animations, change your timings, which we talk about in Essentials. So I find this visual helpful personally. So I'm doing some investigating on this slide. I have an animation applied to this picture. I'm just going to preview that. Looks pretty good. So let me show you a cool trick that I love that so many people, Microsoft doesn't do a good job of advertising this, I'll put it that way. The animation painter. So when you've worked really hard and maybe I've applied all these animations to this one picture and I really want it to also happen on my second picture, you can actually paint animations from one part of a presentation to another. So you start by, if you ever wonder, by the way, I think it tells you if you hover over it, how to do it. But you're starting by selecting the object you want to copy, which is my music picture, popping up. So I'm on the Animations tab, Advanced Animation Group, Animation Painter. Now your cursor changes to something that might be familiar if you've worked with the Format Painter before, but this time it's animation. I'm going to click on my second picture, and all of that work was just done for me. It's such a cool tool and it's such a time saver. I use it so often for presentations. Sometimes it's not even this scenario. Sometimes I have something on slide 2. I did this crazy animation. I'm just wanting to copy it down to slide 14. You can do it between slides too. But that in one little click there, or 2 clicks, I've pretty much copied a bunch of animations over. Really cool trick, Animation Painter. Next thing I want to show you for my next trick, it's not my trick, it's Microsoft's, the morph transition. So I have a few examples. I'm hoping I have time to show you all 3, and if I don't, I'm kind of watching the clock, I might just show you a couple. This is something coming with 365. This is going to be a new transition. You have it already. So I'm on the colleges slide. If you have it, it's going to be moved right to the prime real estate of the transitions, right at the front, called morph. So what happens is people see this new transition and they say, oh, I wonder what this does. So I'm just going to apply it here to the colleges slide, morph. Not a whole lot. So this is where people give up. They say, well, that new transition was kind of a downer. It didn't really do anything. But there's kind of a trick to using morph. And Microsoft actually added some helper text if you hover over it. So I want to show you how to use it more correctly. The idea with morph is you have 2 slides that are very similar, but there's a slight difference. So maybe you're saying, in this scenario, we're going to say the scenario is, here are all of our colleges. Today we're going to talk about 3 or 4 of them. So they give you some instructions to really maximize using this. Duplicate an existing slide and then kind of move things around. It's telling you this in the helper text, and this is how you'll have the most success with it. So if you want to learn how to do these a little slower, we do these in the advanced session with morph. So here's kind of how we do it. I'm going to right click on top of colleges. There is the ability to duplicate this slide. So now I've got 2 of the same thing. I'm going to just change up my second slide ever so slightly. I'm going to just call this colleges. It's going to be today's discussion. This is smart art that we actually build together in the essentials session if you want to learn how to do those. I'm just going to delete, I'm not being biased, I'm just going to delete a couple of these, just every other one maybe. Nothing against any of these schools. Just to kind of make a change here. The idea is I've got 2 slides, kind of similar, but a little different. Now, because I duplicated it, I've got the morph transition already applied to this slide. I'm just going to preview what that kind of looks like. So that's getting morph to work correctly. Duplicate, make a slight change, and you can kind of see how that works morphing into each other. There's kind of a trick here for working with text. So let me show you how that kind of works. By the way, don't quote me on any of these Wichita facts. I don't know if any of them are accurate anymore, but we're just using it because it's a slide full of text. So this is what happens. People say, all right, I got that smart art to work correctly. I'm going to do the same thing with text. I'm going to right click, duplicate my slide, and I'm going to say today's discussion, I'm just going to pull out every other item here. So same exact thing I did a second ago, basically. Pulling out every other item, nothing against any of these items. I'm just needing to show you this feature. So I've got 2 slides, slightly different, slight changes here. So if I apply the morph transition, not a whole lot happens, and then people get discouraged here. So let me show you another trick, and we hit this really hard in both PowerPoint sessions. When you're working with transitions or animations, and you're wishing for a little bit more, look to the right. So I have some effect options here. This is going to be the case for a lot of your transitions. By the way, it's also the case for your animations. If you're somebody who's working with animations, you're also going to have effect options over there. So I've applied my morph. I'm going to change the effect option so it defaults to objects. When they say the word objects in Microsoft, they pretty much mean stuff that's not text. So I'm going to change this to words. A little cooler. I'm going to show you that again. Another kind of cool one, and you might have seen this if you came early on my little video I showed you as you came in, characters. I really like this one. Kind of scrambles up your words a little bit. I think it's really cool. I think it's very modern looking. You know, there's a lot of, it just has a modern feel to it. So check out Morph. It is a very cool feature. We do some stuff with this weather alerts slide in the advanced session, but I don't want to run out of time with you guys today. So just keep in mind, you can do a lot with that morph transition. Just start with duplicating a slide, make a change. This could be a change to a shape even. Maybe you change up a shape. So cool thing there. Okay. That's what I wanted to show you there. Wish I could show you the weather alerts. We do this one in advanced, so. Okay, let me talk to you about what you might be doing when you're finalizing a document or when you're wanting to present this or export it. We're gonna kind of go over some finalizing options. So first thing I wanna show you is working with the presentation view. And I'm actually going to have to be mindful here of showing you. So when I showed you the dinosaur before, I have two monitors I'm working with. I want to show you kind of the back end of this. You won't have to flip this stuff around. But when I showed you the dinosaur, you saw what the audience saw. What I saw on my other monitor was this kind of mission control presentation view is what it's called here. So anytime you have two monitors, and this counts for if you're plugging your laptop into something as well, you're going to have this presentation view by default on your laptop, and then your projector is going to have the actual presentation. And there's a lot of cool stuff back here. So first of all, let me find, I put some notes on a slide. Let me find one of those. So first of all, I can see on the left side what my audience sees. On the right, this is a little misleading. It says next slide. It's actually your next action. So if you have a bulleted list and you're waiting for the next item on your bulleted list, it'll show you that here, kind of what's coming up for you. Notes, any notes you've set up for your presentation? So here I've sent myself a note, share location of schedule. Okay, I better remember to tell them this, right? Where the schedule of courses is. Timer in the upper left, and you have some little controls down here at the bottom. So for instance, this little pen looking situation could be a laser pointer, right? So this could be kind of fun. You can kind of point around at things. If you want to pretend that you're one of those football commentators, you can use your pen to mark up your slide. Just some different things you can do here in this view. You also have the ability to make your screen black, which you might already have on your clicker. Usually your clicker is going to have a little darken the screen so people focus in on you. Also could do it back here. So presenter view, really handy if you can swing it. Cool stuff back there. Let me change myself back here. There was one thing in presenter view that I didn't show you because I want to show it to you here on your slideshow tab. This is something coming soon. If you don't have it yet, you will have to have 365. And if you don't have it yet, you will have it soon. Captions and subtitles. These are live subtitles in PowerPoint. It's such a big deal. I'm so excited about this. So let me show you how this works. Slideshow tab, if you have it, it will be on your slideshow tab. Yes, Mac users will be getting it too. So slideshow tab. If you don't have it, this is going to end at monitors. Your last group will be monitors. If you do have it, you'll have this captions and subtitles group. It's so cool. I want to show it to you. So first of all, it's going to be turned off by default. So when it first installs, you may not even know because you don't always go to this tab, and most of us don't go here all the time. So you'd have to actually flip it on. You have a lot of options in here as far as your subtitle settings. So spoken language, I'm going to get to that. You have language options. I'll do that second. There's a reminder here about microphone. So I think we're more conscious of this now than before we had to go home, but you have to have a microphone. Your computer has to hear you somehow, whether that's the mic on your computer, which means I need to hang out close to my computer during my presentation. But there's also headsets you can get. Microsoft has little earbuds you can use now too, if you want to walk around, which most of us do. Other things you can choose, whether the subtitles show up above, which is the default, or below. But enough about that. Oops. I don't change my language just yet. All right, enough about that. Let me show you how it works. All I needed to do was turn it on. I'm going to start my presentation. Subtitles will start when you start your presentation. And you can see that they're fairly accurate. They're fairly quick. Sometimes if it's somebody who's not very expressive, sometimes I'm not terribly expressive, it doesn't really know where to put your punctuation. So that can be a little troublesome. But how cool is that? It's very accurate. Sometimes slang will get it too. So if you use a lot of slang, sometimes it doesn't know what you're trying to say. So pretty cool. Now, I know a logical question will be, wow, this is going to totally take the place of anything we need accessibility-wise. I think you should double, triple check with IDA before you go that route, but it seems really promising. I don't think it's going to take the place of translators and what do I want to say, signers. But imagine if you're hearing impaired, or even if you're not hearing impaired, sometimes seeing the visual of what someone's saying as they're talking is really helpful for digesting information. Let me show you the language, because this is cool. This is normally where in person I ask if anybody is bilingual. Can I take a risk and poll the audience if you want to throw in the chat? Does any of you guys have a language you want me to try? Because I got a lot in here. There's more every time I come in here. If not, I'm gonna just pick one. Spanish, says Teresa. Let's do it. Espanol. Okay, so and notice I have a spoken and a subtitle. So I'm gonna speak English and have a subtitle language of Spanish, starting my presentation. And actually it's really good with languages like Spanish and French, Latin languages or common languages. One interesting thing you're going to notice as you are speaking, as you're having it translate into other languages, you're going to see the sentence shift around as I'm talking. Different languages have different orders of words. You know, English, we say subject first, then verb, but I think we're actually kind of unusual in that. So sometimes, especially if you're picking a really different language, it's very different from English, like I've done Vietnamese, I've done Arabic, you really see it flipping things around. Oh, Jolin's asking if you can edit subtitles. No, not at this point. There is a beta version where you're going to be allowed to keep your subtitles, like a transcript of your subtitles, and I think that would be a way to do it. That's not available yet, so coming soon, shall we say. Just to go back the other way, let's go back the other way. Let's do a subtitle language. We'll change that back to English, and I'm going to do spoken language of Spanish. Notice spoken language, you have fewer options. I'm not really sure why that is, if it's just harder for it to process language that you're speaking. Estoy aquí con mis amigos y estamos probando esta nueva característica en PowerPoint. No es perfecto, pero eso sí que es. Not perfect, but kind of cool, right? I love that. Don't forget to change it back, by the way. I've done this before where I was showing people a presentation and I tried to speak English with the spoken language set to Spanish, and it's like, I don't know what you're trying to say in Spanish because that doesn't sound like Spanish. So, live subtitles, I love them. Okay, let me show you a couple other things here. Slideshow tab, there's some more stuff in here. God, I wish I had you guys longer because I want to show you so many things. Custom slideshows, setting up a custom slideshow. I'm just going to show this to you quickly. If you wanted to utilize the same PowerPoint for multiple audiences, custom slideshow on your slideshow tab, you can create, let's say I wanted to have a special presentation for the parents and a special presentation for the students. I can do that in here. I can check off, for that matter, I'm just going to check off the top 5 just for ease of showing this to you. I'm adding these over here. Now, notice how you can move slides up or down. Maybe that's the only difference. Maybe you say, all right, parents, I'm going to show them in this order. Students, I'm going to show them in this order. So you can create a custom slideshow, or maybe you just want to leave out one slide that nobody would care about in the student group, right? So that's a really handy thing to know about as you go in and start your slideshow. Custom slideshows, once you have those loaded in there, you can just start the slideshow from here for however many you have loaded up in there. Pretty cool stuff. Let me show you recording options and export options. So if you are recording a slideshow, and yes, you could turn on your subtitles if you want to have your subtitles on while you're recording your slideshow. So this is a feature that's you have it in an old, even if you're in an older version of PowerPoint, but it's gotten a facelift in 365. So let's look at that. So I'm on the slideshow tab, record slideshow. Let me actually make sure I've got this where I want it so you can see the backstage part of this. Okay, so if you've used this before, it was different. You could only do audio. Now you can also bring in video. I don't know, is it gonna let me? Yeah, I'm using my video for Zoom, so it's not letting me do it here doubly. If you turn that on, if you're not in a Zoom, your little head will be down here. So you can turn your audio on or off, your camera on or off. I can see my current slide. I could see my notes if I wanted to pop those out. And if I start recording, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Record. 3, 2, 1. Today we're going to talk about the schedule of courses. We're also going to talk about nouns and verbs. So you get the idea. Very cringy for me to have to do that, but I've got a little recording here in the lower right of my screen. I can see these. I could go back here. I could replay what I've put in here. Today we're going to talk about the schedule of courses. So we're also going to talk about, oh, it's super cringe to listen to myself, but you get the idea. I've recorded everything in here. When I close out of this recording view, I have these recordings in the slides. They're existing inside it. It's going to have timings and narrations that are coordinated with that. So that is a very cool new kind of facelift to recording your slideshows. Once you've recorded your slideshow, let's pop back here and talk about exporting your slideshow. So I've done a recording here, file tab. I'm going to show you a better way to get here too. I have another hack for you. Export. By the way, there's also now the ability to make GIFs in PowerPoint. I'm getting off topic because I have so many things I want to show you, but we're in the export, we're going to create a video. So a lot of you guys have done this before. Once you've recorded timings and narrations, it's going to override any default seconds you've set for your slides. So the default is 5 seconds a slide, and we talk about this in Essentials. Because I've recorded some narrations, it's saying, all right, we're going to override 5 seconds on any slides that you've put narrations on. So there we are with that. The size of your file, in real life, you're probably gonna do the higher quality, but well, let's keep it there, why not? I wanna show you something that happens when you're exporting a video. So I'm gonna create a video. You have some choices here when you're exporting a video, WMV, MP4. I think Mac users actually have more options, but you will at least have an MP4, which is usually what you want, which is what it defaults to. I want to show you a common thing that happens when people go to export a PowerPoint. So this is popped up on my other screen. When you see this little icon, it's really tempting to double click on it and say, all right, I want to see my PowerPoint that I just exported. You'll get a very non-helpful error that says something like, you can't watch the video, and you think, wow, something's wrong with my PowerPoint. When you export a video, look at the bottom of your PowerPoint screen. You're actually going to see a little bar that it's still in the process of exporting, especially because I picked kind of a high quality one. It's taking even longer. When it's done, I'm going to show you what it looks like. It actually looks different than this little icon does here. And so you'll get a visual cue that it's done exporting. So I'll come back to that. I don't want to make you wait for it right now. So maybe you have gone in and you've recorded your slideshow and you've exported your slideshow, or maybe you came to the advanced session and learned about some other options you have on your insert tab for doing things like screen recordings, inserting other video and audio. There is a secret tab you can enable to get to all of your recording goodies. So let me show you how that's the last thing I'm gonna show you, then I'll take some questions here. Hover anywhere on top of your ribbon. I'm just gonna right click. There's an option to customize the ribbon. What? If you came to Essentials, you know you can customize the quick access toolbar. You can also customize your ribbon. You can make your own tabs. You could go to town. There's also a hidden tab here called the recording tab. I'm going to flip that on and show you what's in here. if you are doing a lot of recording, you will want to have this tab. It puts together all the stuff you're having to hunt around for. I'm going to the slideshow tab to record. I'm going to insert tab to do a screen recording. I'm going backstage to export. Here it all is all together on one really helpful tab. There's also kind of a cool thing, save as show. I don't know if there's another way to get to this. There's got to be, but this is how I get to it. Basically, it's a PowerPoint that just shows as a show. They can't go back and edit it or change anything about it. That's what I was showing you at the beginning. If you came in early, that was just a PowerPoint show. Just open it up and it starts running, but it's in PowerPoint. Kind of cool. So, okay. How are you guys doing? What do you guys have? There's some questions here, I think, right? Let me look through these. Can you save the custom slideshow separately? Oh, slides with solutions. That's a really good question. Can we save the custom slideshows separately? I don't know the answer to that. I'll look into that. As far as I know, I've only used them inside a current presentation. So I'll look into that. Shoot me an email and remind me, and then I'll check on see if you can save two separate, like you'd want two separate PowerPoints. Took over an hour to process, export. Yeah. Let me show you what this looks like. I think this is actually done. Once it's done exporting, it kind of looks like a film reel. That's a big hint to you that it's done exporting and that you can open your video. So my main point is don't be discouraged if you try to open it immediately and you're like, why am I getting this error? What did I do wrong? Yeah, it can take a long time, especially depending on your processor. Teresa's saying, can you repeat how to do a show? Oh, the magical tab, yeah. So to get your tab to appear, you're just gonna hover anywhere in your ribbon and right click, customize the ribbon, and it's gonna be a little checkbox here. It's gonna be a tab you can turn on called recording. I don't know if you're gonna have it in older versions of PowerPoint. I don't think Mac users get it. Sorry, Mac users, it's not your fault. And if you want any of this stuff a little slower too, the full sessions, we will also cover this stuff. Let's see, did I get everybody? Other questions? Wish I could just hold you all hostage all day and we could talk about everything in PowerPoint. Cool. Wow, a minute to spare. I did it. Didn't go over. Awesome. Well, feel free to email me anytime, ali.levine@wichita.edu. Check out full sessions in my training. Would love to see you guys. I have PowerPoint ones coming up. Additional thank you to Jeremy for his assistance today. And yeah, contact me anytime. Well, thanks for coming to this. It was really fun.